Okay, we're recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, and now we're about to go live. Because I just wrote all this stuff again. I just wrote it. Why do I have this? Oh, okay. And here we go. Just waiting to see that little red thing. Okay. Greetings, 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 everyone. Greetings. Thank you for your patience. I am very, very, very happy to announce our speaker for this week's Transformation Thursdays. We have Herbal Visions Apothecary. Herbal Visions
Yeah,
Apothecary.
Herbal Visions Apothecary.
Awesome. So we are going to learn about plant medicine, plant spirit,
Plant spirit, yes.
plant
Plant
spirit
spirit.
for trying times and self development. And just a little personal story, I went on one of her nature walks near my house, and it was just awesome. And at the end of it, I said, I have this series on Zoom. I absolutely need you to be on this and share your wisdom, because I felt I learned so much, and it just gives such a greater appreciation for the plant life that's around us. So, thank you so very much for being here. And you can introduce yourself and take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Abina, for having these Thursday transformation talks and inviting me. Almost a year later, I'm here now. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about plant spirit and how working with plants and the spirit of a plant can help to uh, overcome and go through difficult times, as well as help us to develop personally. So, a little bit of background on me and how I got into herbal medicine. It was probably maybe like, I don't know, maybe like going on 7 years ago now I've been studying. But about when I first got started, usually people that get into some kind of like, natural healing modality, they have this, this dramatic story of like how they overcame some health issue with natural healing. And I have somewhat of a similar story, not as dramatic, but I had like this skin condition that developed. And I was trying all these things and nothing was working. I ended up going to the dermatologist and they couldn't really tell me what it was, but they prescribed all these creams to me, which were super expensive, I thought. And I ended up taking it home, trying it. It wasn't really working out. And one of my close friends was like, oh, because she was into like, holistic healing as well, or at that time. And she was like, why don't you just try drinking more water and rub jojoba oil on it? And I was like, all right, like I'll try anything. Like these creams aren't working. And so I tried that. And sure enough, like I want to say a week to 2 weeks later, the condition had cleared up. It was completely gone. Um, and the dermatologist office called me and they were like, oh, we're calling to schedule a follow-up appointment. I was like, no, thank you. Like, I'm okay now. I don't need to come in. So then after that, I was like, well, what else is there? Like what other, natural healing modalities can I add on to, to my life, to my regimen? Like what other natural therapies are there for other, illnesses or other issues that I can like learn about? So basically that just like led me to learning more from like books and, different in-person teachers. And I'm still learning. Like this is a lifelong study. This is a lifelong study. So forever will be a student. It's fascinating to me. All the knowledge that the plants have and learning from other people. So that's kind of what got me started. Um, and then as far as like plant spirit goes, so I was hearing, I feel like my first encounter with like hearing spirit was probably maybe like in my late teens. But then I kind of moved away from it. And I started to get back into it, much later in my years. But then when I started to take lessons, I have to give a shout out to Karen Rose uh, from Sacred Vibes Apothecary, because she is the one who introduced me to spiritual herbalism. So once I started to take classes with her, that's when interesting things started happening uh, again, and more so specifically with plants. So plants do have a spirit, as I came to learn. And it's been very helpful to me personally with everything that I've had to go through the past couple of years, to work with plant spirit and to lean on plant spirit, to get me through those times and to help me develop, my character in certain ways, to help me basically go through life.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, so how was your formal training? What was that about? Did it just kind of deepen your love and appreciation for the natural world?
Yeah, I always I am a licensed vet tech, so I always love nature and animals. But then when I sat in Karen's class, the spiritual herbalism course, that's when definitely I was like, oh, like, plants have a spirit too, like I had no idea. Um, and then I think just the act of like stepping forward and saying, yes, I'm here, I want to learn, that opens me up to communication from plant spirit, and things just started like happening. So with just the intention alone, set everything off.
And please forgive me, I always have an issue with like the mute button. Thank you. So, um, when I went on the walk with you, I was like so impressed with like your comfort level with plants and identifying that. So, how was the process of learning how to be comfortable with the plants, with being confident in your ability to identify them? What was that like?
Well, it happened in different ways. Like, of course, first I started to learn about them, right, in pictures um, and through class and in books and whatnot, and like, searching them up online. But then I was like, I have this park right here. Like, why don't I just go into the park and just like, pay more attention, right? Because I've lived in where I live for like, I don't know, going on maybe 16 years now, but I hadn't really spent time. I mean, I enjoyed going to the park, but I hadn't really like sat with the plants and paid attention as much, as when I was there. And then I was like, let me just go to the park and let me just sit with these plants and let's just see what happens. I want to get to know them. And then once I started to actually like look and pay attention, I was like, oh my God, like this plant is here and this plant is here. So I was just fascinated by how much, I mean, I recently did a plant walk and I was like just going through the entrance of the park. I counted like 12 medicinal plants, just in one, section alone. So there's, medicine, free medicine everywhere, medicine for us physically, but also spiritually and emotionally. Um, so I can't say that there's like really um, anything complicated to it. Like I just went to the park and started to pay more attention and had that intention to learn and to get to know them. It's really that simple.
Okay, thank you. Can you explain a little bit about, okay, what is plant spirit?
Okay, so basically plant spirit. So plants have the same elements that us humans have, right? So we have the five elements, right? There's earth, water, air, fire, and then spirit, right? So plants have the same thing. They're made up of earth, water, fire, air, and they also have a spirit. Um, so it's like, I don't know if I want to say it's a resonance, but like, we're alike, right? So when you start to take in plant medicine, or you start to work with plants in that way, you are affected also by their spirit. A lot of times the things that help us, that plants can help us with physically, they also can help us with kind of like the same aspects emotionally or spiritually. So like, let's say for example, if a plant is able to, cleanse the blood and let's say remove toxicity, it can do that physically, but then it can also do that emotionally. So like, let's say we're holding on to anger or just like low vibrational, thoughts, it can also cleanse that out for us in our spirit, in our aura. A lot of times things tend to, when we come up with, or not come up, but like when we, get ailments or diseases, a lot of times things start in the emotional body first. And then they linger there for so long that eventually it manifests into the physical form. So working with plant spirit can help us to move through those, feelings and get rid of those, traumas and low vibrations that might potentially later on turn into something physical.
So that is such a deep. I mean, I feel that that's such a deep topic because
Yeah.
I remember reading some stories like in folklore about the plants talking to each other, and I
Mm-hmm.
just think of their potential. So actually, yeah, kind of touching on that. Do you feel that the plants do communicate with each other and that they communicate with us?
Absolutely. I mean, there's documentaries that talk about how like trees um, communicate, underground for miles. Mycelium, which is what we think of as mushrooms, right? Mycelium is the actual mushroom underground. And then what we see at the top is like the fruiting body is what we call mushrooms, but the actual fungus is the mycelium that grows in the ground. I think I'm saying that right. But that connects and travels over miles, and of course they communicate with each other all the time. So yeah, they definitely communicate to us. It's almost like they speak to our heart. Um, in that way, and also they tell, what someone might get from a plant, they can get a totally different communication than what I may get from the same plant. um, so I tell these people all the time when, for if anyone that happens to be on here that has been on one of my walks, like I tell them, yes, you can, there's so many books and there's so many resources that we can get information from the plants, but once you start working directly with the plants, you will get information from them on communications that no one else has, that you will not read about in books. And it'll literally be just like your own story with this plant. And that makes it all the more special. Um, and someone could be using or, working with a plant um, for the same reasons, but the plant spirit will show up to them, to each person in a different way. So they definitely communicate with us, but they also communicate in a way that's um, specific to the individual.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Like, how do the plants show up? I mean, is it like in dreams or yeah, how do the plants show up for us? How do they like make themselves known to us?
Yeah, so they can show up in different ways. They can show up in definitely in dreams, in visions. They can show up with just sometimes if you'll like. Okay, so I'll talk about like my first plant walk that I had. And when I say plant walk, there's two different plant walks. There's the plant walks where, someone can guide you into like a park or nature and point out plants and things like that and tell you about their properties. And then there's a plant walk where you basically are um, integrating this plant into your life in a whole different, variety of ways over a course of, a period of time. Um, so my first plant walk, which was actually an assignment that we had to do for our class with Karen Rose, was So we didn't get assigned a plan, right? She was just like, okay, you're gonna do a plant walk, and you don't pick the plant. Basically, the plant picks you. And we were all like, what? Like, what does this mean? Because we tried to, like, when you're starting out, you try to make sense of it, but it's like kind of like beyond rational thought. So we were all confused, like, well, what do you mean? And she was just like, the plant will pick you, like, don't worry. And so sometimes you'll start to feel like a pull, um, up, like an energetic pull towards a plant. So she kind of gave us a, like, guidelines, like, okay, like, if you happen to see a plant a lot during your walk, and you kind of feel pulled towards it, that could be it speaking to you. So I started to get the pull for sunflower, and I don't see sunflowers, at the time. It was like, winter or whatever. Some like sunflowers were around. And I feel like sunflowers around here usually are just like in someone's garden. They're not just like, out on the sidewalk. So I just started to get this pull, towards sunflower. And there was one time where I was at work. I used to work, I'm a licensed vet tech, and I used to work in this animal hospital. And I was kind of like deciding, like, oh, like waiting, like anticipating, like, where is this plant going to show up? Like, is it really is? And I was speaking out loud, like, sunflower, like, if it's you, you know, if it's you, show yourself to me, like, give me a sign. And in my mind, again, because it wasn't like around on my commute or anything like that, I'm like, I don't know how sunflower is going to show up, but like, let's see what happens. And so we have, towels, just like they do in human hospitals. We have towels, like, to dry animals off, or to clean, clean them off, or put as bedding, for like where they're staying. And one of my coworkers one day was like, oh, Lil, can you hand me a towel? So I'm like, okay. So I go and I grab the towel and I open it. And when I open the towel, there was a sunflower there. And
Wow.
so, yeah. And so I was like, oh, wow. Like, I paused and I looked down at it and I looked around and I was just like, there's no one here for me to tell this to share this to right now, because no one, like, at my job knew what I was doing. Like, I maybe one of my friends, but she wasn't there that day. So there was like no one I could, share this with. And I was just like, oh my God, like, nobody has no idea what just happened. And my friend, my coworker was like, Lil, the towel, like, give me the towel. And I was just like, oh, okay, because I was so like, oh my God, like, sunflower showed up. And then after that, there was a couple more times where, like, I ended up doing this, which I don't recommend anyone doing this the way I did it, but I started to do like this automatic, like, writing session, where you just basically, like, close your eyes and you just start to write, like, whatever, messages come through. And so I was writing it, and when I was done, I looked at the paper and there was like some dude's name on it, and I was like, what the hell is this? So I started to search for it, and I looked online, and this artist came up that all he draws is sunflowers. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So things. I mean, that was like my first uh, experience with plants showing up for you and calling you. Um, so, and then I just started seeing it, like, in different things. Like, I would be like, I don't know, like, let's say, like, in Target or some other discount store, and then I would look, and there would be like journals there, and I would see a journal that had like a whole bunch of sunflowers on it. So that's one way where, like, energetically, like, you'll feel that pull, but then it'll just start to show up in your daily life. So it's calling you, like, yes, let's work together. I have something that I can teach you. I have something that I can share with you. Um, yeah, so it's pretty amazing.
Wow, because I love sunflowers. So it's so
Mhm.
interesting that you said that, because I love sunflowers because they're just so sunny and bright, and they make me happy when I see them. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And that's what I needed at the time. I was going through something. I was in a place where I was like feeling, down, and I needed that pick me up. I needed that boost of, like, self-confidence, which is one of the things that it provides, that I learned from it also afterwards. So when we were doing it, our plant walk for the class, one of the instructions that Karen gave us was like, don't research your plant. Don't research your plant, because if you do that, then you want the plant to give you the messages themselves, as opposed to you reading about it and expecting something to happen, instead of just kind of being like a clean slate where like the plant can communicate to you what it wants. And also for us to use like our senses, like what does it taste like, how do I feel when I ingest it, how do I feel carrying it around. So just learning directly from the plant as opposed to researching it. So we couldn't look it up. And actually she gave me the advice. She was like, maybe pick something else that's more medicinal. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like sunflower. I feel like it's it. This is it. And she was like, okay, because she didn't really have that much knowledge or experience working with it medicinally. So she said, well, I won't really be able to, guide you or help you if you need help. So I was like, okay, like that's fine. I just feel like this is it. And so I went ahead and along with it. And then afterwards, during the time where I was working with sunflower, I actually ended up getting like really strong, dramatic blonde highlights that I'd never had before. And sunflower afterwards, I was reading, because once the project was done, I was like, all right, I want to learn more about sunflower. And I was researching it, and sunflower is also associated with Oshun. And I was reading that when someone is like working with Oshun, they may have the instinct of the earth to dye their hair blonde. And that's what happened
Mm.
to me. I went to my stylist, and he was like, I think we should go blonde. And normally I would have been like, no, like I'm not a blonde. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, so I remember when I was walking into class one day, one of the girls was like, I thought that was someone else walking in. I didn't recognize you.
Wow, that is wow. I have such a new appreciation for plants, and definitely going to look at sunflowers differently. It's like they're magnetic. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, they definitely are.
wow, that's like a symbiotic relationship that they have with
Hmm.
us. It's
Yeah,
almost like they choose you.
yeah, it did choose me, because there were a couple other plants that were kind of like showing up for me around that time, but nothing was as strong as like the pull with sunflower. And that's why I was like, I feel like this is it. And I'm glad I went with it, because it's definitely, the medicine that I needed, more emotionally than physically. Um, and like how many people are walking around nowadays, or even before, but like nowadays, that are feeling like depressed, or with low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and those things, if they linger, they start to manifest, in physical forms, physical ailments, right? So definitely, that's why I have such a gratitude for plant spirit, because that was my first experience, but I've definitely had others, and I've been able to like move through other difficult times and learn, and not let myself, not that I don't feel my feelings, because it's important to feel your feelings. We're not doing like toxic positivity here, where we're like everything is great, and we're not acknowledging that we're going through tough times. But it just helps us to learn, or has helped me to learn, the lessons that have been given to me, and to move through them with more, uh I don't know if grace is the right word, but I've been able to overcome, and see the beauty in everything, right? Because there's duality in everything, is another thing that I've learned.
Okay. So I have a question. Well, okay, so someone has a comment. Sunflowers have been prevalent for me since I was in my early 20s. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling this
Nice.
love for sunflowers now. So
Yeah.
there's a question here. How can you identify the plant spirit from other spirit guides?
Hmm. I guess because, well, I think that the plant itself will will show itself to you in some kind of uh physical form, right? So once you've like acknowledged, like, okay, this plant is communicating with me, or is calling me for whatever reason. It has something, some medicine for me, whether that be physical or, you know, spiritual, emotional. um I think at that point, then you know that this plant is doing, you know, working. I also feel like it's a combination of things, because I'm also like spiritual, you know, like I do my prayers, I pray to my ancestors, I pray to my, you know, passed on loved ones. So I do think that at some point things kind of like get um meshed in and combined. But I think that you'll know that it's the plant spirit, because like I said, a lot of times the plant, whatever the plant can help us with physically, that's also their medicine for us, spiritually or emotionally. So that would be a good clue that it would be that plant spirit.
So I have a question.
I hope that answers the question.
So what about tinctures and just yeah, tinctures and extracts of the plant? Does that still you're still able to work with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I if you don't know how to make herbal medicines, uh which, spoiler alert, I'll have a workshop coming up on that soon. But if you're not able to, or if you don't know how to make herbal medicines, you can work with the plant, energetically speaking. So you can, you know, carry. So right now, okay, so right now I'm walking with a plant. What is happening here? I'm working with a plant called lobelia, right? That's my plant for the year. I decided that I'm gonna do a plant walk with lobelia for the whole year. And lobelia is a very low dose herb, meaning that it can be not toxic, but it can uh, cause you to have like vomiting and nausea if you take it at a higher dose. So usually it's in formulas in very small amounts. If you have a tincture of it, you're taking like a couple of drops, like 1 to 2 drops, maybe three. Um, so it's a low dose herb, right? So I'm working more with it energetically. I did take a flower essence of it, which is another way of working with it, and more on the energetic aspect of it. So right now I have a little like this is actually supposed to be like a coin purse that one of my best friends gave to me from Uruguay, but I attached a string to it, and I have like my little pouch with my lobelia herb inside, and I carry it everywhere with me. So that's how I'm working with it energetically. And I took the flower essence. So even if you don't know how to make herbal medicine, you can always obviously like buy from a trusted, you know, herbal source, if you wanted to ingest it in formula. But when I'm working with a plant, I cover like all my bases. Like I work with it spiritually, so I carry it with me. I might put it under my pillow, you know, when I go to sleep. I might meditate with it. I've gotten, you know, I'm not an artistic person, but I've gotten to, sometimes I've created some art, you know, off of some plants. Um, and the herbal, like ingesting it physically, then yes, I'll make tinctures out of it. I'll make, oil, or a salve, or ingest it in tea. So I'm doing all of those things while I'm walking with the plants. But you can choose to just do, like, you know, again, like if you just want to work with the plant energetically, because sometimes depending on a person's condition, or let's say if there's an expectant mother, sometimes a lot of herbs are contraindicated in pregnancy, or they might be contraindicated for someone if they have a condition or if they're on a medication. So at that point, you can just choose to work with it energetically. And if a plant is choosing you and it has a message for you, you will receive the message. The most important thing is just to set your intention to work with it, and to take that step forward. It'll get you the message that you need to hear. It'll get it to you.
So can you just expound on Walking, because I hear you say like you're walking with a plant. So can you explain that? Because I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so when I say walking, I mean like me and this plant are like this. We're like I'm integrating this plant into basically every facet of my life. Um, so I might start depending on the plant. Like I might start off. Tea is my favorite form of medicine because the whole aspect of tea is just very ritualistic for me. It's calming, like the way people feel about coffee, like I feel about tea. So, so tea is my favorite. So usually I'll start working with a plant, drinking it in tea. But I'm just communing with this plant. I'm talking to it, right? Because it's definitely listening. So I'm talking to it as I prepare my tea. I say like, please help me through XYZ, that I'm going through, or show me what if you're not familiar with the plant, you can just say like, show me what your medicine is, or show me what message it is that you have for me. Um, it's also good to have like some kind of like a journal where you write down your experiences with a plant. It can be any kind of a journal. I picked this one because it looks all like, vintage and like it has good stuff inside. um, so yeah, I'm writing down whatever messages might come to me from the plant. I write it down because sometimes some things might not make sense right away, um, but it can make sense like even years later. Um, so you're just integrating this plant into your life. So you're becoming, like uh, best friends basically, because the relationships can go really deep. Like I've shared things with plants that even like my best friends don't know about. So basically you're just like, you know, letting your guard down with this plant and letting it work through you physically and spiritually.
And this is the plant that you choose to work with. So what if like with sunflowers, you know that they're not going to be in season in November. So how do you do that in that case, in that situation?
So right, so in my personal like practice, so I've developed a system like I'll explain why I'm walking with lobelia or working with this plant for the whole year, but I've developed a system for myself. But one of the things that I've asked when I started to do like a monthly plant walk, which is another great way to get to know herbs, because I think that people, I mean, there's a lot of herbs, there's a lot of plants to know. Not any one person can contain all of the knowledge that the natural world holds, which is why like I stay taking like classes, and I still go on plant walks. Like I love to still go and learn from other people, because again, plants give messages to to different messages to different people. So um I lost my train of thought. I got all excited. What was I saying? What was the question again?
The question is like, so you want to work with sunflower and it's like
Yes.
November.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Got it. So thank you. So in my practice, what I have done is that I'll request to be like assigned a plant. I'll say like I either if I'm going through something, or I just feel like I want to like commune with a plant, I'll say like I'll allow to spirit like assign me a plant that that wants to work with me, that can help me through XYZ. But one of the things that I request is that it be a plant that is easily accessible to me, meaning that I don't necessarily want a plant that only grows in, I don't know, like halfway across the world, right? Because it's important for us to know the plants that are growing right around us, because that's the medicine that we need, right? So I want it to be something that is easily accessible. I don't need to wait on shipping, or I don't want to Amazon it. Like I just want something that I can, ideally go sit with, or even if it is a plant that is not from here, but that I have, so that has been my request. But let's say if it's something that is like out of season, again, you can still work with a plant energetically, right? So even if you, ideally you want to get the best quality plant, right? But let's say for sunflower, right? You could go to a health food store and buy sunflower seeds and start working with, you know, with the sunflower that way, right? During my walk with sunflower, I made sunflower butter, which was delicious, by the way. I made sunflower butter. You could carry the seeds with you, right? The seed has like the whole energetic imprint of the plant. So there's different ways to work with the spirit of the plant. I don't want like uh, accessibility to, for people to think that you can't do it if it's not in season or if it's just not, the right time, quote unquote. If it's calling you and you feel that pull, then it is the right time.
So I like what you said about the seed. That's so important. So you don't actually have to have the seed. You can work with, you don't have to have the whole plant. You can just have just the seed.
Yeah, you can start working with the seed. There's medicines that are made from seeds, as well as just. I think we think of herbal medicine and we think like, oh, the leaf or the root, but there is plant medicine that is made from seeds as well of different plants. So
Okay.
overall, the most important thing I think is just the intention, right? Um, I think that, like I said, if the plant is calling you and you feel that energetic pull, then as long as you have the intention, you're putting that out there and you're open to receiving, the medicine and the messages that this plant spirit has for you, then, it will go, everything will go as it should. It's best not to try to overthink it or try to make rational sense of it, because it's not gonna make sense. Like I can't, if I started talking to a stranger about plant spirit, like a lot of people will be like, "What? Like, you sound insane." Um, but it's true. But it's true.
So there's kind of like a question on Facebook. So, and I know you might have answered this already, but you choose the plant or it chooses you, or like do you look at like the properties, like I know you said that you've chosen a plant to work with. So does it happen more often that you make the choice that you want to work with this plant, or that this one plant keeps coming to you, you keep seeing it, you turn on the TV, there's the plant, or something like that? Like, is that how it goes?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever chosen a plant. Um, I welcome everyone to maybe do that experiment, like maybe wait, like work with a plant that you're energetically like getting pulled towards, and then maybe next time just pick a plant and see what happens, because I don't think that ever just because someone wants to work with a plant doesn't mean that that plant wants to work with you. um it's almost like friendships in real life, right? Like not everybody gets along, not everybody blends well. You can be cordial, right? But that doesn't mean that everyone is going to be besties and always get along. So I'll talk more about my practice, what I've developed. So definitely the first walk I ever did with sunflower, like that was my first experience with that. But then I started to start wanted to do like a practice where I would, and that's another way to get to learn more about the plants. I started to do a practice where I'm like, all right, every month I'm going to, walk with a plant. I'm going to commune with it and bring it into my life. Um, and I would just ask, to be assigned a plant. And the way that I developed the system for me is that so there's like herbal tarot cards, right? There's different decks. There's one that's called the Herbal Tarot, and basically there's associations for each card with a plant. This also comes from astrological associations, right? There's astrological associations for plants as well. So the system that I developed for myself is that if I'm looking, or if I feel like I need a plant to help me with something, I will, I'll, shuffle my deck, and then I'll pray and say, Spirit, like, please assign me a plant. Again, please let it be, local to me, easily accessible. But I need help with X, Y, Z. Um, so then I'll shuffle my deck and I'll get my card, and then that will be, my assigned plant, right? So the reason why I'm doing a whole, I've never done, this is the first time I've done a whole, a year, a year's long walk with a plant, is because this year, my tarot card for the year, is the devil. And when I say my card for the year, I mean like the card that there's like this, there's a book that's called, I think it's called Living the Tarot. I forget the author's name, but it's called Living the Tarot. And in it, she has a formula that basically you use the, your birth date or whatever, and you add stuff up, and then it tells you like what your major arcana card, tarot card is for that year. And basically that's the card that, or the major arcana that has the lessons for you for that year. It could be like, things, challenges that might come up that you need to overcome. But so my card for this year is the devil. Now, the devil can come up in different ways, right? The devil is, like negative thinking, sloth like energy, right? Like not, not being proactive, or think like seven deadly sins, right? That's like kind of like devil energy, right? But a lot of times we are our own worst enemy. So to me, that's what the devil card makes to me. Like, I'm my own worst enemy. But while I am my own worst enemy, like, I'm the problem, but I'm also the solution, right? And so I have issues with like, I don't want like procrastination, or like, things, saying to myself like, oh, I can't do that. Like, I'm not qualified enough for that. Like, I don't, no one wants to hear what I have to say, kind of a thing, like that kind of talk. And so that's my devil, right? And so the plant that's associated with the devil card, is lobelia. And lobelia basically, can help to move blockages, right, and constrictions, right? So if you know anything about lobelia, like I was talking about earlier, is a low dose herb, and it is a great first aid herb for someone who is undergoing like an asthmatic attack. Very low dose of lobelia can help a person's airway, open up, if they're having an asthma attack. But your lungs, right, in your throat, that's your throat chakra, that's like speaking, right? Which I have issues with, which is why it took me a year to agree to do this. But because I've been working with lobelia, then that, has helped me to move through those blockages. And that's why I'm here now talking to all of you beautiful people. So yeah, so that's how I've developed my practice to working with herbs. Like, um, I might, ask for a plant, or I might just say like, oh, yeah, I might not be necessarily going through anything that I can see right now, because I've gotten assigned plants to me that then have, like, because I got that plant assigned to me like months earlier, have helped me through an issue that showed up months later that I didn't know obviously I was going to be going through. So I think things come to us when you're open and you have that intention. Things come to us as we need them, and the plants will show up to help you through your your trying times, and through self-development, right? Like public speaking, or helping us navigate relationships with other people, right? Because it's all character development.
Hmm. Hmm. Really, you
I
had me
hope that
feeling.
answered the question. I know I said I said a lot.
You had me feeling like I want to go back to Seton Falls Park and just, sit there and talk to the plants.
Yes, yes,
Wow.
they definitely are listening. And you know, they want us to talk to them. They want us to talk to them.
Mm. So, someone was asking, like, what is her IG? What does she do? So, do you want to kind of, for the people who are just joining, say who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yes. My name is Lilia. My IG is Herbal Visions Apothecary. Um, I started to, you know, study plant med or herbal medicine maybe like 7 years now. I have gotten now to the point where I feel like I know enough. But again, like I said earlier, this is a lifelong study. I will always be a student. But I feel like I know enough to share of what I know. And so I started doing plant walks last year, basically just walking people through the park and pointing out, you know, the medicinal plants. Yes, Lucy. Thank you, Lucy. Herbal Visions Apothecary. Yeah, that's it. Um, and I point out medicinal plants and I, you know, explain their medicinal properties as well as their spiritual properties if it's one that I'm familiar with that I've worked with. Um, and then I recently started to do workshops and teaching other people how to make herbal medicine. Um, so the plant walks are great because you can go and like actually, I mean, I have plant books, you know, plant ID books, and now I know that there's plant apps which are great where you can like snap the picture and it'll tell you, you know, like what plant it is. But you should always have like three sources to confirm your ID. So like you can use the plant app, yes, but then make sure that it's confirmed with like either two other books or a book and another, you know, herbalist or experienced, you know, plant person. um, so there's that. And then, but the workshops that, or the workshop that I put together basically teaches how to, it's like a 101 herbal medicine making workshop, but at the same time, it has a focus on like culinary herbs and spices because those are obviously like, you know, medicinal. And I don't want people to, um, I guess, feel like they need to know, you know, all the herbs in the park or, you know, herbs or order herbs from like some faraway land in order to start making herbal medicine. Like you can do this right with the herbs and the plants that you have right in your kitchen.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you. So, someone said, can I ask for a plant because intentions are so important?
Yes, you can definitely. That's part of what I've taken on as a practice. So sometimes I'll get an energetic pull, like it's calling me, and sometimes I'll just like, you know, I'll just say, you know, please assign me a plant. Um, and I'll, you know, I'll take my herbal tarot deck. There's like herbal. This is just my. You don't have to do this if I'm sure not everyone is into tarot or things like that. That's fine. You don't have to do that. It's just what I've developed for myself, and so I'll just ask for a plant. I'll say I feel like I want to do a plant walk. You know, like I'm needing a plant in my life because sometimes you know things happen. Like I've developed a system, but I haven't been consistent with it every month for the past, you know, however many years. Like, you know, life sometimes gets in the way. And, but I think we need those spiritual connections, right? Whether we're doing it with, you know, with our ancestral altar or working with, you know, whatever deities, whatever, you know, spiritual practice we're following, we need that, right, in some way, shape, or form. So I sometimes, you know, if I feel like I'm falling off, I'm like, oh, I feel like I need a plant to, you know, to hang out with. And so I'll ask to be assigned a plant. And, you know, then I do my card thing and I get my plant. What's interesting is that sometimes, like, right, us as humans, we're like, it's happened to me where I like shuffle a card and I'm like, oh, and I'll get a card and I'm like, oh, this doesn't really make sense. Like I don't know that this is right. I don't know that this is right. And then I'll put the card back in and shuffle again and the same card will come out. And then I'm like, okay, fine. Like I'll take it. And then as I start working with the plant and, you know, taking in its medicine and doing my thing, then I'm like, oh, okay, now I see why, you know, you were so insistent in that this is the plant.
So that's humans being human.
Yeah.
Um, so someone asked, is this does this work also with trees? Does it necessarily just with plants, or can this work with trees as well?
I think it can. I haven't worked with a tree in that way, but I think that's a great idea. Trees have medicine, right? We have linden tree, we have uh, sweet gumball tree. Like there's lots of trees have medicine. I haven't gotten too much into tree medicine, but I do know some. So yeah, I wouldn't see why not. Trees have a spirit as well. They are connected, right, to like their roots go deep down and they reach way up, so they're almost like connected to um, both like different planes at the same time.
Okay. So um, so when you're working with plants, is there a certain time that you have to pick them or deal with them? I know that some books that I've read, they talk about, you have to pick a certain plant on like a certain day or at a certain time of day or even at night. Has that been your experience?
You can. I haven't necessarily followed that school of thought, but I do believe in it. It's just that sometimes NYC Bronx life. Like I'm like all over the place with schedules, but it is a thing. So a lot of people follow the moon as far as like when to harvest and when to work with certain plants. For example, mugwort is considered to be a moon plant. So it is said that mugwort should be harvested or is best harvested like on a full moon. Um, the full moon, the energy is at its peak, right? So I know of other herbalists that they only harvest on the full moon. Um, there's also the seasons, right? So like if you want to work with a plant, if you want to work with a plant's roots, then ideally you would harvest the roots in the fall or early spring because that's when the energy of the plant is in the roots. If you wanted to work with a plant's flower, then you might harvest, obviously when it's in when it's in flower. But if you wanted to work with the leaves, then let's say you would harvest in the spring or in the summer before the plant flowers, right? Because there's different. The plant puts its energy into whatever it is growing at that time, so you would want to take advantage of that. But that's just like it's it's not that I've tried to follow that, and it's not that if you like if you don't that you're like doing it wrong. It's just that the energy might be a little bit more potent at certain times.
Thank you for that.
Hmm.
Um, can you recommend a plant app? Because I know that you said you mentioned earlier about looking at books or having a guide. So can you recommend a plant app?
Yeah, there's one that I sometimes use. It's called, hold on, there's two that I know of. Making my phone here. There's one that's called Picture This. And then there's another one that's called I Naturalist. But I think that there's one that's been like the more popular one that's just called Plant ID. Um, I think they all kind of have like the same ratings. I think it's a great tool. You just have to be careful because sometimes, um, the information may not be as accurate because I think a lot of it is just other people uploading their findings. So it may not be as accurate. Also, sometimes there's more than one species, obviously, to plants, and so you just want to make sure you have the right one.
Okay, awesome. Oh, somebody commented, her elderberry syrup is fantastic.
Who said that?
Oh,
Thank you, whoever that was.
I can't
I feel like
see.
it has to be someone that I've met, someone that I know.
Yeah, I can't see. It's scrolled up. I should have. Oh, I
But
just
thank
think
you so much.
Oh, okay. And someone said, I was told you should lean your spine to the trees. In colleges, they would show kids leaning their back to the trees, I guess, like to offer support. Hmm.
Mhm.
Wow. That's awesome.
I hadn't heard that specifically, but tree medicine is very grounding. I mean, just sit under a tree and you'll get those effects, you know. You'll definitely feel it. So tree medicine is awesome. Actually, my nephew, he lives out in Georgia, one of my nephews, and I think he's in middle school. Maybe at that time he was still in elementary, but he was outside with his class, and one of the kids started to kick the tree that was out there, and he got up to the kid and was like, "Why are you doing that?" And I think they got into a little bit of a tussle. And then the teacher was like, "What?" Like, you know, was kind of like, um, kind of making fun of him and saying like, "What are you doing? Like, it's just a tree, you know." And then he was really upset about that. So when I spoke to him on the phone, I was like, "Your teacher is so wrong. Like, it is not just a tree. The tree has feelings. They communicate." I'm like, "They don't know nothing." I'm like, "You did the right thing." So it's great to see that even kids, you know, standing up and communicating with plants like that and trees and, you know, nature in general, standing up to defend it.
Oh, and the comment I scrolled up, her elderberry syrup is so yummy, is Lourdes from Confetti.
Ah, Lourdes. Thank you, Lourdes.
I want to ask you about the season. So now I guess we're about to shift into the summer. So what's the plants that we should be working with now or have close to us?
In reference to like what exactly? Like,
I guess what would good for like our overall being, for good energy? What would
mhm.
be beneficial?
Well, it's summertime, so I feel like um cooling plants are always good, you know, in the summertime. There's people have different, like for example, my constitution, I have a colder constitution, like I'm thin and petite, so I tend to need you know, warming herbs and warming spices. Not that I can't have cooling plants, but like I always have to feel like I have to add in something that's warming. But in the summertime, like I can, you know, go ahead and have cooling plants on their own for the most part, because the temperature outside is warm, so it's okay. It's not going to aggravate my constitution as much. But definitely like cooling plants, a lot of like herbs. Like you can make a regular tea and turn it into like a lemonade or like a you know, like a cold tea. But as far as plants specifically, lemon balm is a good one. Let me see. I'm kind of drawing a blank here, but lemon balm. Oh, you put me under the pressure. I'm drawing a blank, but I think that any plant that you feel called um, to work with, like I think that the time is always right. Like I don't necessarily feel like something you shouldn't work with something because it's not in season per se. Like I feel like if it's calling you, then you should go ahead and work with it.
Okay, thank you. So from Instagram, we have a
Oh,
question.
I will say one thing. Like now, you know, summer. Sorry, Avina, but
Mhm.
now, like, summertime is a good time. You always want to prepare for the next season, right? So after, you know, summer will be fall, you know, and winter. So we want to prepare, you know, whatever, you know, medicines we prepare or herbs we want to acquire for like you know, the next season. So like probably later on in the summer or sometime in the summer, you want to, you know, start making like, let's say, your fire ciders, or like, you know, getting your maybe immunity focused, you know, herbs on deck, just to have all those in preparation for the next season. So you always want to kind of be thinking ahead.
Okay, thank you. Um, yes, so from Instagram, we have a question. What spiritual value does a bamboo tree or plant share?
Hmm. I'm not familiar with bamboo. But if I was going to, I mean, I know bamboo, but like not bamboo like spiritually. I haven't worked with it in that way. But if I had to guess, I feel like bamboo is like it's very easily I don't know if propagated is the right word, but it's very hardy, right? Like it can multiply and grow really fast, and it's used in a lot of ways. So I think that that can lend to like what it might be, what can it can do for us spiritually, right? So maybe it might help us to have longevity, or this is just me like guessing. I haven't worked with bamboo, but I'm just trying to show you guys how like sometimes you can like start to kind of look at how a plant lives and how it grows, and sometimes those things can give us clues as to what it can do for us spiritually.
Okay, I wanted to ask that because, well, I wanted to ask, on that same topic, because I'm thinking of like peppermint.
Hmm.
Peppermint, when you grow it, it starts out so well behaved. Then all of a sudden it starts growing very, very wild. So I'd heard that peppermint, because it's strong, is very good for protection. That
Hmm.
it's a good herb to use for protection if you're feeling attacked, because it is very strong. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I have heard that about peppermint. I haven't worked with peppermint spiritually again, but I have heard that about peppermint. Yes, it can be protective. It can also be cleansing. There's actually lots of plants in the peppermint, in the mint family, that are like that. Like other mints are like basil and holy basil. Um, Lemon balm that I mentioned earlier is a mint, is in the mint family. Thyme is in the mint family. Oregano is in the mint family. So those are all very cleansing and protective as well.
Okay, thank you. So, someone said, "How can I take your class?" Like I knew that was going to come up.
Uh, so I'm working out some details. I'm in the middle of I'm in talks with someone for a venue. So once I pick a date, and everything is finalized, and I'll put that out there. So stay tuned. You can follow my Instagram. Right now I don't have a website, so the Instagram is the place to be if you want to stay tuned.
Okay, I can think of a place as well. Okay, so someone asked, how long can a plant live or survive? It said they were given a plant in 2009 and still have it. It started out very small, but now it's almost to the ceiling. They think it's a yucca plant, or maybe
Oh,
Dracaena.
uh-huh. That
Yeah, so
sounds like it's gorgeous. Yeah,
yes,
I don't know. I don't, full disclosure, I don't really have a green thumb. But if it's hardy, I don't know how long it'll live, but as long as it sounds like you're giving it a lot of love and all the right things. So, like, it's doing really well. So I'm sure you'll probably have it for years to come. That sounds gorgeous.
um, okay,
And I know,
so
like, house plants, like, I know, I don't know. I mean, I feel like every plant has a spirit, but house plants, they may not necessarily have medicinal properties. So you probably wouldn't want to. I would obviously do your research before you start, trying to ingest them, or looking to see if that's possible. But definitely energetically, like you can also work with house plants energetically. So I think it's beautiful if you've had a plant that long and it's thriving, and definitely talk to it and communicate with it. It's obviously happy where it is.
someone commented, hug a tree. Yes, I think that's a good practice as
Mhm.
well. So the title of your talk is Trying Times. So why the title Plant Spirit for trying times? Like, and how can plants help during trying times?
Okay, so I'll give you another story, right? Trying times. So one of the plants that is most nearest and dearest to my heart is plantain. Not plantain like plátano. Plantain, it's spelled the same way, but it's a wild plant, considered a weed, and it's called plantain. Um, so plantain, plantain is is a plant that I had when I requested to be assigned, a plant to me. Plantain was one of the first plants that I got when I kind of first started this doing like this monthly practice. And at the time, like I didn't really have anything going on, right? I was like, oh, this is perfect. Plantain is like very abundant all over New York City. Um, this is great. So I started to work with it, in the ways that I mentioned. I made medicine with it. Um, Now, plantain, from what I learned through it, right, what I had learned from it is that plantain helps to remove toxicity, right? It also can break down blockages in the uh, in the urinary tract. It removes toxicity, right? It removes toxins, poisons. So it's helpful for, like let's say like a snake bite or mosquito bites, these things like that. Um, and this is a very, somewhat personal story, but it's a good one. So I got assigned plantain, worked with the medicine, and then I want to say maybe like during that same month that I had started to work with plantain, I got word, from my mom that my sister had gotten a cancer diagnosis, right? So that was really heavy. Um, but the thing is that me and my sister, we hadn't spoken for like 8 years. So really long time. And even though this was happening, like obviously, I had to, think about like, well, what am I gonna say? How do I say it? Like it's been so long, I don't even know where to begin. Um, and so as a couple months went on, I still hadn't really spoken to her, but I was just like, hearing how she was doing with things. And then I want to say maybe like the second month or so, I was like, I had come out the shower, I was drying myself, and I noticed that I had like a lump right on my breast, and it was very big. And of course, I immediately felt sick and nauseous. So I was like, oh my God, like, this cannot be happening. This is, like I was thinking about my mother, like, my sister's going through this. And now what is this that's happening to me? Like, I can't take this. I'm like, I'm calling out of work, not going into work tomorrow. Went to like the first GYN office I could find that could fit me in. Um, and then they sent me to do, an ultrasound. And it ended up being that it was a cyst, thankfully. But it was so big that they were telling me that I should have it drained. And if you know me, I'm not one to sign on for like any kind of medical, interventions. Like I definitely will try anything like holistic first before I even think about doing anything that has to do with needle or procedure or anything like that. So I was like, oh, no, thank you. Like, I've read that you can like, do natural therapies. And the nurse was like, really? I haven't heard that. Well, you can call us, when you're ready to schedule your appointment, blah, blah, blah. So I left feeling relief, but then I was like, all right, now what am I going to do? So during this time, right, I had been taking plantain. I had made a plantain oil, like basically an infusion of the plantain leaf in olive oil. It was sitting for, a month and a half, and, I had strained it. And plantain is helpful in removing cysts. So I began the practice of like removing, like applying the oil like day and night. I was also doing poultices of plantain. And as the days went on, it started to shrink. And it was until it pretty much just like went away. But during this time, while I was taking this herb, communing with plantain and, doing all my things with it and applying it to myself, it's like it put me, that whole situation put me in my sister's shoes, right? Even for just to feel for a fraction of a second what she must be going through, right? So that helped to just basically, just me put everything aside and just kind of like see her humanity at that point, and just say, like, this person is going to pass away. This is my sister. She's going to pass away, and I need to be there regardless of how she feels about it, or I just need to take that step forward. So had I not been working with plantain, I don't know how that situation would have gone, right? Like, who knows how things would have turned out. Unfortunately, my sister did end up passing away, but thankfully not before, we made amends and we were able to, like, both of us just like release that, toxicity that had kept us apart. And, we were able to talk about everything. And plantain definitely facilitated that whole, all that movement. So not only did it help me to mend that relationship, but it also helped me to get rid of the cyst naturally without me having to go any kind of medical interventions. Um, so it's definitely a plant that very near and dear to my heart. Every time I see it, I'm just like, giving it a head nod. And I tell everyone about it anytime anyone is like, oh, I have, this mass. I mean, I've used this plant. It can be used in so many different ways, and I've used it for so many other people. I've used it for my mom. I've used it with a neighbor, another family member, myself multiple times. Like, it's a very great, plant. Yeah, it's definitely a special relationship that I have with it. So that's what I mean when I say trying times. I mean trying times. um, and that can be looked to, different people in different ways. I can show up for people in different ways, but um, I mean that was heavy, heavy stuff. And thankfully, I was able to, move through all of that, and have the outcome, at least in mending the relationship.
Wow. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. That is really profound.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hmm.
And I've had, other, it's been it's been definitely interesting past couple years, because I also I had to I'm raising now my sister's daughters, my two nieces, and my mom lives with me. So I went from living by myself to now living with, also the three of them. So it's been like growing, pains, especially. I mean, I knew moms had a tough job, but like now I'm like, like, I salute all of you, because this is, it's definitely, changed me, and it's helped me to grow. But again, I couldn't have done all the things that I've had to do if it wasn't for plant spirit helping me out, and, helping me through all of this.
Hmm. Wow. That's just so profound. So profound.
Yeah.
And it also kind of shows how disconnected we are from the plant world, from the natural world, because yeah, the first thing is the medical interventions, and even when you mention you want to use the plant medicine or the herbs, it's like, no, 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 that's not going to be effective. So it really shows this like
Yeah.
disconnection, that we
Yeah.
have.
I mean,
Wow.
the nurse, I mean, of course, like, people tend to like make fun of or dismiss what they don't understand, right? And no judgment to her, because I at one point I didn't know, it just so happened that I was called, to this path, and thankfully, I answered the call. But no judgment to her, but yeah, like, she pretty much laughed at me, like, you'll be back, you know
Mm.
and thankfully, I didn't have to come back. My mom too, even with that plant, my mom, she had like a growth that appeared in her mouth. And I think also sometimes, Plantains is a powerful plant for spiritual and physical benefit. Yes, indeed. I think sometimes when it comes to herbal medicine, people need to understand that it's like it's slow, but it's it's sure medicine, and sometimes you need more than one herb or more than one therapy, more than one holistic therapy to get the results that you want. But either way, sometimes things take time, right? Like our bodies we didn't get, whether it be a spiritual, ailment, like let's say like depression. We didn't get depressed, overnight. We didn't get sick overnight. Our bodies didn't become toxic overnight. It took time. So if you're working with herbal medicine, it's gonna take time to correct that as well. So sometimes we can be like, oh, and didn't, work for me. But obviously, like, we might not have given it the amount of time that it needed to do the job. So when my mom had that issue, I was like, Ma, just give me like 30 days. Just give me 30 days to have to, put this medicine into practice. Like, let's, apply this, like, and she was like, okay, fine, I'll give you 30 days. And already, like, by the end of the first week, it was already, the growth was smaller. Like, basically, she was worried that she was going to have to go to the dentist and spend, like, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars to get this treated. And Plantain handled the situation in, like, 30-ish days, right? So we just have to be patient sometimes with the medicine, and just trust and let it work, let it do its thing.
Hmm. Yeah, patience. Okay, that that can be a challenge. Yeah, we
Yeah,
do
it
want
can
to,
be.
but I think with that, it shows that the plants don't just work on one level, not just on the physical level. It seems that the plant healing goes deeper than just
Yeah,
the physical.
yeah, it definitely does. Um it affects us on all levels. There's something called spagyrics, which I have not attempted to do, but basically a spagyric preparation of a plant um is a whole plant preparation. Like the plant is even taken, and basically like over a very slow heat, broken down into ash, and then that is added to the medicine. So it's like the plant's entire, being is now transformed into this medicine. Um, and yeah, it definitely will work on all of your senses. Um, it's it's holistic, whole, WHOLE, whole medicine.
Can you say that again, or maybe you write that in the chat what that is, and is there a book about that?
Spagyrics, I don't necessarily know of a book per se. I know that I think that's Spagyrics. I think that's how it's spelled. I don't know of a book per se, but I know that there's an herbalist. His name is Saja Popham, and he makes Spagyrics. Um, I'm probably like screwing up his name, but he works with spagyrics. And I know there's another herbalist that I recently learned about, and him and his wife, I believe, is an iridologist, um, and he makes spagyric medicines as well, but their name escapes me.
Any
Any
part?
part of plantains is good for healing. Yeah,
Mm.
the seeds from the seeds. Actually, there's a variety of plantain. Um, that's where psyllium husks come from. What they use to like to clean out your bowels and to like for constipation, psyllium husks comes from plantain, from a variety of plantain. Um, yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, so the leaves are edible. You can make a tincture, a tea, or or a oil out of it.
Wow, I didn't know. I thought psyllium was its own plant. Wow.
Yeah, it's just a variety of Ooh, Lucy, you're missing out if you're only using it for insect bites. But that's one of the more that's one of the more common ways to use it. Like if there's like a, if someone gets like a bee sting in a park, like put, chew up plantain, make a poultice out of it. A spit poultice is what it's called, and apply it onto the insect bite, onto the bee sting, and it'll help to like remove the stinger, release the inflammation, pull out the toxins. I would still, maybe call an ambulance, because I don't, depending on if the person is has and can go into anaphylactic shock. Some people are like really allergic, but it can, it's definitely not going to hurt. It's only going to help the situation if you do that. And if they're not, then you save them, from the pain and the possible ambulance trip.
Because that's what happened when I was on the herbal walk with you. I had said that a few days ago. I had the bee sting. So yeah,
Oh
when
yeah, I
you
remember. Yeah,
yeah, so so yeah,
yeah,
I took a bunch of those leaves and had them, taped up on my arm. So thank you for that.
yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful plant. I love it so much. Sometimes I see, like, if I'm, because it grows everywhere. I've seen it grow out of sewers, on sidewalks, or whatever. And sometimes I want to stop and be like, "Do you guys know, like, about plantain? Like, you guys are just walking all over it. Let me tell you about it."
So yeah, what I wanted to ask is, so what are, some common things that you see all the time that we can, just be picking up and using?
Well, definitely plantain. I mean, dandelion. Dandelion is the poster child of weeds, unfortunately. And dandelion, the Latin name for dandelion is anytime an herb has like for the Latin name, if it has officinalis in it, then that means that back in the day it was classified as like official medicine, like it was recognized. So dandelion's Latin name is Taraxacum. I think I'm saying that right. Taraxacum officinalis. So, they know. They know the benefits. They know the benefits. They know the medicine that it has. But they rather us not know. So they want to sell us weed killer, to get rid of it.
So you said
Um,
if the name has what in it?
Yeah, so like if like every a lot of plants have like they have Latin names. Um and Latin names, like, don't get too hung up on them, but sometimes it helps, or like Latin or like scientific name, it helps to differentiate varieties. Because I can say plantain, but maybe, plantain is something else to another, culture, or another, group of people. So sometimes Latin names can help to be more specific. But let's say, for example, of dandelion, I'm gonna write it. I think I'm spelling that right. I might be butchering the spelling, but basically, if it said at the end, if the second half of the scientific name says officinalis, then that means that it was recognized as medicine back in the day.
Wow.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it's not recognized as that now. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, not by, I guess the powers that be, but I definitely recognize it. But yeah, so yeah, they teach us to, to kill it, pull it up out of the ground. You don't want it there. But actually, what another thing that I learned is that if you go, like, next time you're out, well, once you start to learn the plants, and recognize them, like when I'm out, I look in people's like front yards, if I can see in backyards, like I see what plants are growing in their house. And a lot of times the plants that are growing in their yard are the plants that they need, right? So one of my teachers, which I think he's gonna be at your at the expo. Tux from Herbal Bush House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
so one of the things that I learned from him is he said he was saying that he would do these consultations, right, in people's homes, and they would sometimes, let's say for example, a woman would be like, oh, I have very heavy menstrual, periods, or or I'm suffering from this condition, blah blah, and then he would walk them outside, like to their front yard or backyard, and they were like, this is the plant that you need, like it's growing right here. um, so a lot of times, you know, um, the medicine is really like just right outside our door. But people, we're just not, a lot of people just aren't aware yet, which I'm grateful to people like you, using your platform and having all these events, to educate uh, everyone, especially here in the Bronx, because I mean, I know I'm like, I don't want to have to go to Brooklyn, all the time to go to these events or to the city. So it's good to see that, these things are happening here in the Bronx too. And we just need to educate, our neighbors, so that way everyone, can learn and come up together.
Welcome. So, okay, so in front of our house is Morning Glory.
Hmm.
So for like 20 years, you try to pull it up.
Hmm.
We think it's gone because we don't see it. And then here we go, the end of April, beginning of May, you see a little bit, and then 2 days later, like it's taking over, the bushes in the front. So what is
Hmm.
the symbolism of morning glory beside it being super invasive? It's pretty in the morning at
Hmm.
7:30 when they bloom. They're
Hmm.
pretty, but they're so invasive.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with Morning Glory in that way, but I do. I would say, do your research on Morning Glory, see if there is a what the benefits of, let's say, maybe even a flower essence of Morning Glory is. Um, you could, once you learn about it, if something resonates with you, even if it, like, again, there may not be something like, medicinal about it that you feel like would need or feel called to ingesting it in that way, but there might be like a spiritual aspect to it. And flower essences are a nice way to work with the energetic properties of plants. So I would say, like, research it, look into it, and if it resonates with you, see if you can, find like a flower essence of Morning Glory, or see, what medicinal properties it has, and then maybe you could like save it next time, instead of, like, there could be a reason why it's there. If not for you, then maybe someone in your household.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd be interested to hear what you find.
yeah, because oh, did someone say it's for longing, affection, and love? Ooh, okay. Mm, okay. Very interesting. I
That
will
sounds nice.
definitely, yeah, yeah. I will look that up because that sucker is just everywhere. We had some tulips and it like choked the tulips.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Yeah, but there's also I mean, there's lots of plants that are considered invasive. Um but there's this, I didn't read the book, but there's a, I forget, I think the book is called The Medicine of Invasive Plants, something like that. But basically the message of the book is that, like, they're considered invasive, right? But if we just learn to, you know, use their medicine, then we wouldn't have to. I mean, it's an abundance of medicine. Like, a lot of the parks, they're considered to, the plants that grow in the parks are considered to be weeds and invasives, and parks departments comes and chops them down. And, imagine if we could just use all that medicine and put it, to good use. Obviously, letting it, still have the ability to grow and multiply, but we can, instead of cutting it down and, like, I don't know, getting rid of it somehow, um, it could be put to good use.
I remember there was the guy Steve Brill. Steve Bro, who used to do the walks, and I think
In Prospect Park, maybe?
because I did one with him in, yeah, it was in Prospect Park, and
Hmm.
I know that even though he was arrested for talking about, taking the
Yes,
plants. Wow, wow.
yes, yeah. I had the last plant walk that I did, I had the Parks Department roll up on me. And
Wow.
they were like, you know, you can't harvest, right? And I was like, no, no, we're not harvesting. I was like, I'm just talking to them about it. But then they were like, oh, have you ever considered of applying to the Parks Department? We could use your knowledge.
My gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, they were interested, but they were like giving me a reminder.
Okay, so you said dandelion. One thing I think I've seen a lot of is scallion, wild onion. Are
Hmm.
there any? Oh, are there? I forage at Inwood Hill.
Inwood
Oh,
Hills
oh.
Park Forest, yeah.
Um, so yes, the wild onion. Are there any other plants?
Any other one?
Are there any other common plants that are around that are healing?
Yeah, there's tons. One, I mean, mugwort is super abundant all over the place. Um, I mean, mugwort gets chopped down so much because it also is considered invasive. But mugwort is very helpful. It's considered to be um, a moon plant, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it's said that it's best to harvest it on the full moon. The association with the moon uh, makes it also be classified or known as a woman's herb, right? Um, it can be helpful for like heavy periods, heavy menstruations, but it can also stop heavy periods. So once you start to work with it, it just kind of knows what to do depending on who the person is that's taking it. I know that it's also been used in in birthing. So like let's say if there's a not my experience, but I've heard of birth workers using it. Let's say if there's like a birth that is just like not coming along or might be a little bit difficult for some reason. I've heard that it just by lighting it and letting the mother smell it, it can help to bring on contractions to kind of like get things going, because it does stimulate the uterus. Um, so yeah, it is amazing. It's also known to cause lucid dreaming in some people. Um, it's me, I'm people. It has caused lucid dreaming for myself too. Um, and I did it one day. I hadn't worked with a mugwort at the time when this happened to me. Yes, it can cause abortions too. That is correct. Um, so I hadn't been working with mugwort yet at the time, but one of my friends who is a birth worker, she was like, "Oh, this was like a couple years ago," but she was like, "Oh, it's the full moon. Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I gotta work tomorrow. I don't have time, to do anything. I'm just gonna go to sleep." And of course, being who she is, she had like some mugwort in her car, so she's like, "Here, take this," and just light it or do something. And I was like, okay. So I right before bed, I lit it, wafted it around a little bit, and then I put it out, and then I put the rest under my pillow. And I had like the craziest dreams that night, where I was like, I remember I was walking like through some it almost was like a school building, and I was like opening doors, and then I opened a door and I asked one of the there was like a man, he was like teaching, and I said, "What is this?" And he goes, "You mean what are we doing here, or what plane is this? Like what plane of existence is this?" And it was so freaky because I I I was like very aware that I was like somewhere else. but I couldn't, I just kind of had to like flow through the dream, but I was like trying to like figure out like where I was. Yeah, so it can cause that for some people. It doesn't happen to everybody. Mugwort also has associations with the high priestess in the tarot. High priestess, I believe, is the second or third, second major arcana card. And the high priestess is basically like the representation of the seen and the unseen. So mugwort is like kind of like a bridge between the seen and the unseen as well.
Wow. And someone was just asking what plants would you recommend for dreams? Hmm.
For a dream, well, mugwort definitely is one. Valerian can also cause people to have very vivid and lucid dreaming. California poppy is another one. Um, I would say that those those three probably, but mugwort is like so abundant. Um, Anyone, you can just go outside and there's like mugwort with vacant lots with like a whole bunch of mugwort. It's so abundant. I also saw one time, I was on my way to the park and I saw this woman, she was Asian and she was just chopping down just like a whole bunch of mugwort, because mugwort is from parts of Asia originally. And she was just chopping down a whole bunch of mugwort. So I was walking and then I walked back and I was like, excuse me, like what, do you mind me asking like why you're using, how are you going to use that? And there was a little bit of a language barrier, but she was like, oh, she goes, make big bath, pain. And she goes, back pain, leg pain. So it's also used for pain. It's eaten in other countries as well. It's used in moxibustion, if anybody knows what moxibustion is. It's like where you apply heat to acupressure points. And traditionally it's done with like traditionally it's used basically like it kind of looks like a cigar, but there's mugwort in it, and they apply the heat to different pressure points to relieve like stagnation and get things moving.
Okay, so mugwort is good for pain. Okay.
Yeah, and also Lucy's right. She says, I've used it to smoke when running out of cannabis, but haven't done that in a long time. Also, you can use for moxistic for pain. Yeah. Also used to create compost. Yeah. Yeah, it's also used, you can smoke, some people will smoke it, smoke mugwort when they're trying to either, stop smoking cannabis or, but it's also used in blends like with other, other plants that are good to smoke. So
What
yeah,
about
mugwort has tons of uses.
ginkgo?
Ginkgo is also amazing. Again, I haven't worked with ginkgo spiritually, but ginkgo is all over. Like there's ginkgo trees lining, blocks all over the place. Ginkgo is can enhance circulation, but ginkgo obviously, what ginkgo is mostly known for is to help cognition, circulation to the brain, to keep us sharp, memory, things like that. But yeah, you
But
can go ahead, sorry.
the ginkgo that's out now, because I remember, I think going on a walk where when they mature, the seeds have a smell, and that's how you know, okay, yeah, this is a ginkgo tree. So sometimes in the city, I see a sign on a tree that says, oh, it's a ginkgo tree, but it's like, it doesn't have that smell, or, do they do something to it to take that away?
No, it's just that smell comes when like it drops its fruit, like that's that smell. But when they're green and before the leaves turn yellow, you won't have that smell.
Mm, okay, okay, Okay. And someone, did I miss someone had asked, yeah, when you were talking about mud work, was that for moon or a mood plant? Is it a moon plant or a
Moon.
mood? Oh,
Moon.
moon,
Yeah,
sky.
Moon. Yeah.
Okay.
Moon. Yes. Moon plants. Moon is associated, right, with women, right? Our moon cycle, 28 days, the moon goes through all of the planets and, in the 28-day cycle. So that's that where that association is.
Okay, thank you. Someone said when you were talking about like the mugwort, or I think the other plants, they were saying, I'm hearing Hotel California by the Eagles.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, everyone should do this experiment. Like next time, I mean, I guess if you're not sure what mugwort looks like, I would look it up and confirm your plant ID. Um, but if you're sure, then you can, like uh, harvest, a little snippet of it, even just like a leaf or two. I mean, it's so abundant. It's not that another thing with harvesting, right? Like obviously we want to be responsible when we're harvesting. You don't want to harvest the plant that might be like endangered from over harvesting. You want to make sure that there's enough of a plant in any one area before you harvest from it. You want to at least see it like, I don't know, three to four times in any one area before you decide to harvest from it. And also, we should also be approaching it, with respect. Like this is a living thing. You want to have some communication with it, ideally before you start snatching, leaves or cutting, cutting a branch or whatever it is. You want to engage with it and say, maybe, I mean, back in the day, our, ancestors would offer, from different, walks of life, like they would offer some kind of offering to the plant in exchange, right? So offering can be like just explaining maybe like why is it that you need, or you would like to have, some of its medicine, or explaining why you would like to harvest it, but also then saying thank you and maybe sing a little song, or some people will leave some hair. If you happen to have tobacco in your bag, you can like leave a little tobacco, which is what the traditional um like usually what is one of the plants that mostly was used as an offering. So just be respectful is all I'm saying. Like, obviously uh you'll develop, the relationship, with plants once you get there, but just be respectful. But mugwort is super abundant, so I don't think mugwort would have a would have a problem. But yeah, I encourage people to do this, like just harvest even a couple of leaves, or like just a small branch and take it home, and it smells really good, by the way. Like it's very fragrant. So everyone is all about, or there's been this in the past years, like this obsession with sage. Sage is over harvested, right? It's also been uh misused by, I mean, I've seen sage sold at like Urban Outfitters, and like, what the hell is that about? So it's like this is like an indigenous plant used by a certain group of people, and we should be respectful of that. But uh, that's a whole nother topic. But I say that to say that mugwort is super abundant, and mugwort can also be used to cleanse space and cleanse your energies. Um, so you can take a little bit, dry it if you're looking to burn it, but other than that, you can use it the way it is and just like smell it. Maybe make a little bit of a tea if it's appropriate. Um, Put it under your pillow, carry it with you, and just see what happens, and take notes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think I've caught up with all of everyone's questions. So, just one more time, and I know I've asked this before. So, we can, if there's a plant that we're interested in, we would look that plant up, and then we would begin to work with it, and like work with it by carrying like the seed with us, or drinking its tea, or carrying a piece of it with us.
Yeah. So basically, the first thing I would say again is just to put the intention out there. You can just, when you wake up in the morning before you leave your house, you can just say like, you know, you know, plant spirit, I'm interested in working, with plant spirit. Please show me, what plant spirit wants to work with me. You can just say like, I'm new to this. I just want to know, like what plant wants to work with me, and just start seeing, like what happens. You may feel like a calling to a plant. If that hasn't happened for you already, you may start to feel it. But again, if you start, if a certain plant, let's say on your commute or whatever, you keep looking, like it keeps catching your eye and you feel like drawn to it, then that could be a sign. If this happens like multiple times, over the course of, like, let's say a week, then that could very well be an invitation from the plant, for it to work, for you to work with it. But I would also say, like, just come, you can say like, show me, in a way that I'll understand. So like it might show up for you in a dream, as well, or someone might just keep bringing it up in conversation. Even if you're watching TV, it might keep popping up in commercials. They don't necessarily have to mention it, but the plant might be there, in the picture. Someone, you might see someone on the train that has a picture of the plant on the t-shirt. Like, I mean, I wouldn't, just be open to all the ways that the plant can show up. It's not just gonna come in any one way, but it will be grabbing your attention.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely intention first, and then, you know, you can you can either start to, work with it if you're unsure of whether or not it's appropriate for you to ingest, the plant, like in a tea or a tincture or something like that. You can just start to work with it energetically and see, what the communication is like and what messages it has for you. Um, it's really cool when you don't research it, right? Because then, you don't have any preconceived ideas of what this plant can do or what it's for. Um, or you might, it won't block you off to a message that it might have to give you, that might come in a form that you're not expecting it. But if you can't resist, then, by all, then you can like look it up and, see what its medicinal properties are. You can even look up to see what its spiritual properties are, but try not to let that be like the end all be all for you. There is more information for you. Again, if it's calling you, it's because it has something to share with you. And that might come in a different way that you might not, read about in book. It's not going to be any book. And, your experience with that plant is going to be your experience with that plant.
It's heavy.
Yeah,
Heavy.
heavy, but exciting. I mean, I'm a walking testimony to all of this. Like, I've been through a lot in the past couple of years. I know a lot of other people have, and I just think it's very important for us to take care of our, spiritual, emotional bodies, so that things don't manifest, um, physically as ailments. And I think that plant spirit is a great tool, to help us get through, difficult times, whether that be, difficult times collectively, but I think more so individually, right? Because if the individual is good, then then you're more able to help out, your loved ones, your community, right? So it all starts with us first. We got to take care of ourselves, make sure that we're, our point, that we're good. And that doesn't mean that everything is always going to be good for us, right? But I think that the I've seen this, manifest in my life and get me through really, and I'm still using it. I mean, I'm working with lobelia for the rest of the year. And, it's going to be a lifelong practice for me. So I highly recommend it to everyone. Um, if anyone has any more questions, I'm on Instagram, Herbal Visions Apothecary. Anyone feel free to like send me a DM, um, if they want, a little bit more clarification, or, have a question or anything like that. feel free.
Absolutely. There's definitely some people are like, what's her Instagram? What's her Instagram? So I've been messaging people and letting them know, no, she doesn't have a website. She's not on Facebook, but you can follow her on Instagram. So definitely, I will be following you to find out when your next class is, because I definitely think people are very, very interested in learning more and going deeper
Yeah,
into this subject. So,
yeah.
and I didn't know Tooks was your instructor. That's great.
Yeah, Tux is amazing. Tux is he's awesome, and the whole Herbal Artist Network is awesome. Yeah, he's like he's such a great teacher. Like he's motivational, he's inspirational. He's great. So I'm glad he's gonna be at your event. That's awesome.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
And I just want to say like one last thing, like
mhm,
I just it's also super empowering, right? To be able to help yourself um when it comes to making herbal medicine or using herbs either spiritually or for physical things, whatever the case may be. It's very empowering to be able to help yourself and not have to like outsource your care to someone else. um
mm,
and I'm not saying that like sometimes those other sources might not be needed. They can be needed. Sometimes herbs don't take care of every single thing. Sometimes combination therapies are needed. Prevention definitely is is where it's at. We want to be preventing things before they become a problem, right? So that they don't become a problem. But it's super empowering to be able to help yourself, to be able to help your community, like those closest to you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, right? Because that's where it all starts. um I'm, again, like I said before at the beginning, I'm no expert. I'm still learning from people all the time. I love to learn. It's going to be a lifelong lesson or lifelong study. But just coming to talks like this, and even like YouTubing things that have to do with herbal medicine, like just take one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed with like so many, like you need to know all 500 plants just to get started, right? You can just start with one thing. Like think about like what's your favorite, culinary herb, or what's your favorite, culinary spice, right? Like you can start learning about that, and if you just, again, put that intention out there that you want to learn, like things will start coming to you. And like doors will open up. And I just think it's great to, to be able to have that empowerment.
thank you. Yeah, really quickly before you go, Lucy, I just wanted you to introduce yourself, and I knew you would be jumping on, Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
That's so
Hi,
funny you
Lucy.
said that's so funny because I completely forgot. But then once I saw your live on IG, I was like, who's on? And I'm like, and I couldn't really hear well on IG, so I went to find you on Facebook. But thank you so much for this class tonight, and I look forward to learning more. And I'm really excited. You remind me of someone that is already following you, Dr. Karina Lopez. She's my naturopath, and sad that she moved all the way to Greece. But,
Yes. Oh my God.
but
So her husband is the one that does the spagyrics,
is
right?
that who is that? Well,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, he's like an herbalist, a
Really?
chef, like food is
Yes.
medicine
Yes.
chef. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes. That's
you
why.
remind me so much of her.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
so
have you
funny
been
because
told that?
I haven't, but I know I learned of her through two of my friends who are birth workers. They're also both on IG. One of them is Royal Mothering, and the other one is the Uptown Birth Keeper. If you aren't following, follow them too. They're great.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I
Sanjeet,
follow
that's
one of
Sanjeet,
them.
right?
but
Sanjeet, Royal Mothering,
yeah,
Sister
Sangeet.
Sanjeet. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
know
Sangeet
Sanjeev. Yeah, that
and
was her
Monique.
doula. That
Yeah,
was
and
Dr. Lopez's doula. Yeah, I know her.
yeah, and so I learned of her through them too, because Monique, which is the Uptown Birth Keeper, she uses her as well. So every time they talk to me about her, I'm like, man, she's goals. Like I love hearing stories of like what she's done for them, and I'm like, yeah, like she's awesome.
Yeah, I learned so much from her, and yeah, and I'm looking forward to learning more from you. Thank you so much for your work, and yeah, I've done a lot of community like health work with like farmers markets and community gardens, and I'm an aspiring herbalist myself. So yeah, I'm on the journey as well.
Yes, do it. It's a beautiful journey.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
so
you.
sorry. Lucy, you said Dr. Karina, she's moving to Greece?
She moved.
She's already there.
Yeah, she's already there.
Mm,
She moved like once, like over a year, because right after she gave birth, the pandemic hit, and she
mhm.
was right away, like, with patients. So after a year of doing that, she moved to Greece. It was a lot for her.
Okay. Yeah, I thought
I
about
But
that.
believe
she's
I believe
she
she does. Does
she's
she does remote,
yeah,
right?
she does. So you're able, and she does iridology now as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
she's able to like still do consultations over the phone, on video. She's treated me when I caught COVID, and I couldn't see her right away. Based on what she's taught me throughout the years, I treated myself. But then once I finally got to see her, I was getting treated by her. So she's been a great help to my life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What a tiny world. Someone wants to know
Mhm.
when is the next plant walk?
I have to see. My life has been a little bit crazy. I was doing them more often last year, like every 2 weeks. I did one, I want to say, I don't know, sometime last month, and I'm trying to see when is the next one that I can get up there. It's hard for me to give more than a week's notice um, because sometimes the parks department will just chop things down without notice. And so a week's time is like a good time frame. I like when I schedule one for the following week, I'll probably go like once or twice before the walk just to make sure that everything is like, still there and, to map out the walk. So it's a little hard to schedule more than a week in advance, but yeah, just stay tuned for my to my IG. I definitely want to get another one in there soon. But yeah, I would love to have everyone. It's a good time. And it's
Okay.
not just me talking, like I like to hear from other people. Like I love to hear um like medicine stories, like what did your mom do for you, when you were a kid, or what did your abuelita treat you with when you were little, like what's your memory of herbal medicine in your family. Like I like to hear those stories because that's what, like, keeps this alive, is people like sharing and and yeah, just like sharing stories and teaching, each other, and also teaching the younger generation, because we want to keep this going.
True. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you. And for the people watching, she is Herbal Visions on Instagram. I see all the text asking where is she on Instagram? Herbal Visions on Instagram. And please follow her to find out when her next nature walk is. They are awesome. They are just really, they're really, really great. And you'll really, really have a great time and learn a whole bunch. So I just want to thank you. Thank you so much because I really wanted to get you
Yeah.
on here, you know.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to thank everyone for, coming on. I don't think it may not seem like this was hard for me, but it really was. I'm more like behind the scenes. It takes a lot for me to, like, show my face, but and speak. But shout out to Lobelia for getting me through, and also just for all of you guys for showing up and being so engaging with your questions. Like I really appreciate it. It made all the difference. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at a plant walk, or any messages, questions you might have, and in my DMs. You're more than welcome. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. And again, for everyone who's watching, she's Herbal Visions on Instagram. No Facebook, no website,
No,
just Instagram. Just
Yeah, I mean, Abena, I
yes.
just wanted to add that to add apothecary at the end in case there's another Herbal Visions on IG because it's Herbal Visions Apothecary.
there is another Herbal Visions. I was too late. But yeah, it's Herbal Visions Apothecary. But now you guys know where the name comes from, because I've had lots of, Herbal Visions throughout this path, and yeah.
Okay. So in just a quick commercial, we are already in the month of June. That means we are 16 days away from the Melanated Soul Expo. And I just feel really excited that now you said one of your instructors is there, someone you've learned from is going to be there.
Yeah,
So
yes.
I'm really,
Talks is
I'm really
awesome.
Yes, I'm really hyped. That Herbal Bush House will be there at the Melanated Soul Expo. So, yes, that is in 16 days on Saturday, June 18th at Sobro Social. Go to Eventbrite and register so you can come in for a day that's just going to be epic and awesome. And yeah, it's in the Bronx. That means no
Yes.
train, we're not going over
Yes.
any bridges, we're not going under any tunnels, no two fare zones, right here on the mainland. We're not going to any islands. We're staying on the mainland, since the Bronx is actually connected to the North American continent. We're staying right on the mainland. So please just Google Melanated Soul Expo, go to Eventbrite to register for the Melanated Soul Expo, because at the door we cannot take cash. So if you think you're going to wait until the
Oh,
day
that's
of,
good to know.
yeah, we cannot take cash at the door. So you want to be there, you will need to register in advance, or you'll have to use your card at the door, because we won't be able to do a cash exchange at the door. Yeah, so that's just a little FYI. But we so look forward to seeing you there. This will be the first year, and we know that the next year is just going to be bigger and bigger and bigger, because this is the information that we need to know. So to see
Nice.
you there.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank
Um,
you. Likewise.
yes, I'm going to send you the recording. So anybody who's watching, if you want to see the recording of this, please message me, inbox me your email address, and I can send you the link to see the recording so you can hear it from the beginning. Okay.
Yes, please, because I logged in at 8.
We started at like 7:40, so
Yeah, you didn't miss much, but yeah, thank God for the recording.
yes. And
Thank you
yeah,
so
yeah.
much, Lilia. Thank you so much, Abena.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, everyone. I had a great time. Thank you so much, Abena.
You're most welcome. Okay, everybody have a great night.
Night, 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 night.
Night,
Have a
night.
good
Take
one.
Night.
Bye bye.